when I first started this, I thought it was going to be a lot more outbound and hunting of like great founders. And we did that to get it started. And it all started with Laura Coe at Snapology. And then we brought in the little gym. But now we have founders and organizations reaching out to us going, man, I see the synergy. I see the synergy in franchise recruitment. I see the synergy in marketing. I see the synergy in operations. And so we have a lot of great organizations reaching out going, hey, can we talk about how we could get involved?
Welcome to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast, where we talk about all things franchising. Now, here's your host, Dr. John P. Hayes.
It's John Hayes with the Franchise Hot Seat. My guest today, Michael O. Browning Jr. Michael, welcome to the program, and I'm really looking forward to what we can talk about.
John, it's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So the company that you have is Unleashed Brands. And before we get to that, I would like you to share, you are an entrepreneur. You've won Entrepreneur of Excellence winner. You're Entrepreneur of the Year winner. You were 40 under 40 with the Dallas Business Journal, a rising star. But none of that says franchising. In fact, many times in franchising, we say we don't want entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs want to lift the hood and say, no, why is that connected to that? And could we get it faster if we connected that to that, or if we remove that? That's not your job, franchisee. Franchisor is entrepreneurial, took care of all that for you. We make it run. The engine runs because of the millions of dollars we've invested up front to get you a really great system that all you've got to do is follow the system, which business schools will say, well, those aren't real business people. They're just following the entrepreneur's plan. All right. Well, we could tackle that lots of ways as well. So you're an entrepreneur, Michael. How did you discover franchising, and what made you think that, okay, I can take all my entrepreneurship and stuff it into this box called franchising? How'd that happen?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's been an amazing journey. And really for me, it started with owning multiple family-owned locations here in Dallas-Fort Worth of a business called Urban Air Adventure Parks, which is a business that I started. And we were having a ton of success. And as we went to multi-unit and multi-site, we got an office garage. And in that office garage, we started creating the systems, the manuals, the processes, and the procedures to run our family-owned businesses because we couldn't be in 3 or 4 places at one time. And our philosophy was, if we had to be there for the business to run phenomenally, then we are great doers, not great leaders, not great teachers. And so we built all this framework. We didn't know, though, at the time, the framework we were building to run our multi-site family-owned business would be the same framework that we would run the foundation of the franchise off of. And so I kept getting all of these phone calls from people who were traveling into Dallas-Fort Worth to visit friends and family. And they would ask me, hey, will you open one in this city? And we're like, no, we're happy doing what we do. And I finally got a couple phone calls that were like, will you franchise it? And I said, I don't even know what franchising is other than watching the Founder movie on McDonald's. Yeah. That was it. That was the extent of my franchise knowledge.
Yeah.
And so my grandfather actually said to me one day, he said, Michael, you don't want to look back 10, 20, 30 years from now and wish you would have explored franchising because this is either God or the universe or whatever you believe in telling you, hey, there might be an opportunity, a door, a window that you need to go through here. And so put out some effort to learn it and figure out if it's the right door or the wrong door. And so I reached out to a friend of mine who was at a law firm in Fort Worth, Texas, over by TCU. And they introduced me to Fuzzy's Tacos. And Fuzzy's Tacos, who was also the founder, was also from TCU.
Yeah.
That organization took me under their wing and taught me franchising 101.
Great. And Fuzzy's, when it appeared on the market, wow, it was fantastic. We'd go out of our way to get to Fuzzy's.
Yeah.
So that's terrific. You didn't expect to be in franchising. You never would have thought that's in my future, right?
No, not one bit.
Yeah, and so many people, even Fred DeLuca with Subway, he didn't start Subway to franchise it. He started it to own 12 of them
Yes.
corporately. And
Yes.
along the way, noticed that McDonald's was really growing and using this thing called franchising. And so he and Pete Buck explore that. How can we franchise Subway? And of course, then he becomes the world's largest in terms of numbers of units with Subway. So I've never interviewed anyone other than Ray Titus of United Franchise Group, whose father was the founder of Minuteman Press. And Ray knew when he was in the 8th grade, he'll be in franchising when he grows up. And there are others, his 3 boys, probably knew that same way, that our future is in franchising. Even though I think one of them at least tried to fight it and do something else. The Dwyer kids, Don Dwyer's kids at the Dwyer Group, now Neighborly, the world's largest supplier of home services franchises, and 6 kids there, and at least one of them said, franchising's not going to be for me. But they're all involved at some stage and in some way. It's infectious. Once you're in it, why would you want to get out? This is the path. And yet, we open our doors at Palm Beach Atlantic University. The last 2 years, we've had our largest entering freshman class. And so we are growing, but we're a small university. And let's say, for every 100 students, 2 of them may know that franchising is not a sports team, or a series of movies.
Yeah.
But they might know it's McDonald's, but they don't know that it's Urban Air, for example.
Right.
So we're way behind in franchising, and we've been way behind educationally, which is great to see more centers coming along to teach young people about franchising. So you had Urban Air, and you start developing that. But at what point do you say, well, wait a minute, we can focus on families and children? Today, you have, as I understand, 1,500 franchisees operating or in development. You have served more than 25 million children, and
Yes.
Unleashed Brands is number 1 franchising platform serving families. How did that happen? Why not taking care of the home?
Yeah.
Like Dwyer did. Why not business to business like Titus did
Yes.
with his brands? Why the family?
That's a great question, John. And I've always, mentors in my life have always just told me to be positively optimistic in the face of turmoil. And when COVID happened, we shut down, as did everybody else, in March of 2020. And I told my franchisees and I told my team, I said, I don't believe we've come this far just to come this far. I don't think this is the end. I said, however, I do think that, as with all major events, the consumer is going to be a little different when we come out of this. And I said, and where there is turmoil, there will be opportunity. So let's keep our eyes open, our ears open, and let's look for it. And so as we moved through COVID, we didn't have any closures at Urban Air. We were able to get everybody open again and back to success. And it was in this moment, I was sitting actually on the couch with my wife, and it was that time where we could come out of our homes and start putting our kids in things again. And my wife and I were having a conversation that this was like a hard reset for the family. We were literally both on our phones. We have 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. And so at that time they were 9, 7, and 1 or 2. And we're literally Googling on our phone. What are we going to do with a kid who loves fine arts? What are we going to do with a kid that's more athletic? And what are we going to do with this new guy that we got? And it was in that moment I said, man, this is too hard. The youth enrichment space is too fragmented. And I went and it clicked. Where there's fragmentation, there's opportunity for consolidation. And I began to study the Neighborlies of the world, the Driven brands of the world, the Inspire brands of the world. And I said, okay, people have done it with the house and the car, but nobody's done it with what I believe is the most important asset in a family, the kids. And I said, so we're going to partner with parents and we're going to help them just really make their kids what where we're training our kids to leave, right? We are training our kids to leave the home and go out into the world, and we want them to be productive citizens. We want them to learn how to have willpower, and we want them to learn how to have respect for authority and love others that don't look or sound like them, and never quit and find their passions. And so we set out on this mission just to help kids grow in their skills and their hobbies, learn the basics, and then play. And we think when kids are able to do those things, we can make them into what they're destined to be. And we believe kids don't have to wait to be great. They can be great kids today.
Amazing. So you have focused on the family, specifically on maybe moms and their children, because typically, I don't want to be chauvinistic, but dad's off doing something else and mom's getting kids to games. That's not always the case, or into activities. So you, where did you come up with the Franchise Growth Accelerator tagline for Unleashed Brands?
You know, it was one of these things where we were blessed to be able to build the infrastructure around Urban Air, because Urban Air's AUVs are so high. And because they're so high, obviously we as a franchisor are very healthy. And we always reinvested back into our systems, our processes, and our procedures. And so we had a very robust infrastructure. And so when we started talking about, okay, we know what we're going to do for the families, what are we going to do for other franchisors? We said, listen, a lot of other franchisors, it's going to take them a very long time to be able to build that infrastructure that we've built because of Urban Air. So how can we use this infrastructure to accelerate their growth in franchise recruitment, accelerate their growth in finance and accounting, accelerate their growth in marketing without them having to bear the burden of actually building it? And that's where this growth accelerator came from.
Had you thought about becoming an FSO? Was that ever of interest or part of your plan? Instead, you took more of the neighborly route, the United Franchise Group route.
Yeah, we did talk about that for a little bit. And really what I felt was I wanted to have, and I'm not saying FSOs don't have unity, but I wanted to have a lot of unity in what we were doing. And I wanted to have skin in the game. I wanted to have risk along with the organization that we were working with. And so we said, hey, let's make a significant investment financially upfront. Let's reward founders for their hard work and help them accelerate the growth of their business. So it wasn't that FSOs are good or bad. It was more of just a philosophical kind of alignment I wanted, which is where we ended up going.
So you used your own money. So we're talking now about private equity. You come along and you find a brand and you want to bring it into the family, creating more opportunity for unity, and you buy the brand. You keep the founder, the team. How does that work?
Yeah, so we come in and we're very creative and flexible in the structures. And so we'll come in and we'll ask founders like, hey, like based on how long you've been in the business, based on just where you are in your life, your personal life, are you looking for cash now? Are you looking for a stock swap? Are you looking for a little bit of both? Like, what are you looking for? And so we can structure the deals per se to fit that. So there's not one mold. We then talk to the founders about, hey, like, is this something that you want to continue with? Is this something that you want to help with in the transition and then be more of a founder advisor role? Because here, as a founder, our founders will always be founders and nobody's ever taken that away from them. And we honor that. But there's a difference between being a founder and an operator of a very large franchise organization. Yeah. And so we're always going to honor the founder, but we've got to build the infrastructure for the franchisees that they brought into the family and the franchisees we're going to bring into the family. Yeah. And so we try to help work with the founders to figure out, okay, like, how long do they want to continue to be that operator, or do they want to be more in a founder advisor role, helping with tribal knowledge, helping with franchisee relationships, helping with launch days or discovery days? So it's a fluid thing that we're always working out.
Yeah. Founders are not always, as we know, the greatest operators or managers, and but still they inspire so many
Yes.
people. So you started with Urban Air, and I don't know if I know all of your brands: Snapology, Little Gym, Premier Martial Arts, XP League. One that I love, Tom Pabin, Class 101, College Planning. I've got a great story about how college planning is now bringing students to Palm Beach Atlantic University.
Yes.
So I know you've got those 6, but I thought you had 10 brands.
No, we do. We have 6. We have those 6. We have others that obviously we're working through and process with, but those are our 6. You're spot on.
And would you aspire to a Neighborly where, I don't know, they had 34, they might have 40 by now, just like United Franchise Group. I never know how many Ray and his team have. I think they have 10 brands at the moment. Could be 12, could be 8, because he sells some. So what about you? Do you say, okay, we're going to hit 12, that's enough?
There's no cap or lid on where we're going with this. We really do listen to our customer. Our customer are the parents, and our users are the kids. And so when we interact with our parents, we hear them saying things like, hey, it'd be so great if through this same app, because all of our companies use the same technology, both as a franchisee and as a customer, so that they can manage all of the businesses. So, for example, 8% of our franchisees own more than one brand. 61% of our franchisees own more than one unit. And that we make that easy because they all use the same systems. So what we're doing is listening to our customers, and they're saying, man, it'd be great if after they finish at the Little Gym and you've taught them how to listen to a coach and stand in line and take instruction, we could teach them how to swim. Unleashed could teach them how to swim. And then from there, they go, hey, my kid doesn't want to do Snapology. They really want to be in more traditional sports. It'd be great if you had some traditional sports. So our vision is to be able to keep our kids in our ecosystem from birth until they graduate out through Class 101 and go off into college, or maybe they're going off into the working world. And so we have to fill the enrichment map with all of the services families need to grow great kids. And so we move with the time. So fine arts, traditional sports, swimming, those are things high on our list right now.
Yeah. Do you have established brands? Maybe they've got 6 or 8 or 20 franchisees. Are they knocking on your door because they want to be they want to be accelerated?
We do. When I first started this, I thought it was going to be a lot more outbound and hunting of like great founders. And we did that to get it started. And it all started with Laura Coe at Snapology. And then we brought in the Little Gym. But now we have founders and organizations reaching out to us going, man, I see the synergy. I see the synergy in franchise recruitment. I see the synergy in marketing. I see the synergy in operations. And so we do. We have a lot of great organizations reaching out going, hey, can we talk about how we could get involved? Yeah. And so that has been very surprising.
And so how much of your growth is coming from them coming to you versus you going out and finding a fit for what you want to accelerate?
I think it's probably 50-50 right now. Just we're here for the long term. And so we know a lot of what we do on the mergers and acquisition side is building relationships and really helping founders and organizations understand how they could be a fit and what that would look like. So this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so we got a lot of conversations going out there, and we just take it slow.
Yeah. And are you looking at the international market?
We are. We think there's tremendous white space internationally, and we are in 14 countries already. Now, we acquired the presence in those countries, so I can't take credit for knowing how to do that personally. Right. But there's so much organic white space here in the United States. So right now, the U.S. is our focus. We're obviously supporting the international master franchisors that we have, but right now we have just so much opportunity in the U.S. or really North America that we're excited about.
Yeah, and that's always been the focus. But today, there's evidence that the fastest growing marketplace for franchisors is the international market, which was not always the case, not just because of a pandemic, but prior to that, lots of issues. I started working with the IFA in, when they took my book, Franchising the Inside Story, in the mid 80s and put that in their magazine, and then put me on their traveling faculty for a couple of years. Back then, there were only 600 people coming to an IFA convention, and I probably knew 400 of them at least. And now with 3,000, 4,000 people, it's impossible. But then I started working with Peter Holt, who at that time, he's a franchisor today, but and on my advisory board. But at that time, he was taking trade missions abroad. Maybe for a year. And IFA asked me to go on those trade missions to explain franchising to the media. And that was a great opportunity. But it was very, very difficult and rough. And finding a way to make it work, even in England, was difficult. Refining the master license process. And it's still a piece of work to get that done. But wow, has it opened up. After Peter, it was Bob Jones at the IFA, who took over international, and then Bob went into the foreign service and then retired, because those guys can retire early and do something else. And he's now one of the top international developers on my advisory board at the Titus Center, along with Bill Edwards, who tracks these international markets. And that's very helpful to franchisors to see here's where the openings are for American brands, which are very, very popular throughout the world. When I lived in Kuwait, they boasted about particularly food brands in the Middle East. They have all the American food brands, and they do some of those brands better than we do at home. So it's huge. And fortunately, we're teaching students about international business. So the student who gets a degree in international business and has a franchise concentration behind it, it's just unlimited, the kinds of exciting things they're going to be able to do in their life. So I'm sure you'll continue to develop more in that direction. Yeah. So I want to know some more. Anytime people say to me, oh, I'm going to be a franchisee and I want to operate, a business, maybe $1 million business, et cetera, et cetera. Do I have to be concerned about, do I need a lawyer? Do I have to be concerned about lawsuits? Listen, if you're in America and you're in business, and you do everything right, you're probably getting sued for something. We had that when I was chair of We Buy Ugly Houses. Not even from franchisees. There were suits coming that made no sense at all. Of course, suits that needed to be if it's over territory. We've had a lot of that through the history of franchising, where franchisors were not giving enough territory, or franchisees were violating those territorial regulations. These things happen. So what happened with Little Jim? You ended up with in a lawsuit. I think it may be still going on with Little Jim. So was that a surprise? Do you don't go into anything expecting a lawsuit, but they come along?
Yeah, it's one of these things where nobody ever wants to end up trying to solve business matters through the legal system. It takes a lot of time. It uses up a lot of money that could be used on marketing or supporting franchisees or building infrastructure. It's never what anybody wants. In this particular instance, there was a dispute where the franchisees thought that we as a franchisor didn't have the right to control or institute a new point of sale system or a call center within our franchise agreement. And so it's all over now. The courts ruled unanimously in our favor that as a franchisor, we have the right to control the point of sale systems and brand standards, and it's over. And I understand that they wanted the clarity and they got the clarity, and we're all moving on. And many of them were just at our franchise conference 3 days ago. We had a phenomenal time together. Bill Walinda, the president of that association, who kind of led that charge, was there. We had a great time, spent time together. So I have this weird ability to compartmentalize things and not take things too personal. And, it's unfortunate that, they saw it that way, but I think they appreciate the clarity. We appreciate the clarity. And now we're all just ready to get back to business.
Yeah. Well, so through the countless brands that I've been associated with since I got involved in franchising in 1979, I mean, Dwyer had a lot of things going on that were always a little on the, in a kind way, the crazy side. I mean, Don was so entrepreneurial and so creative. When we had the first Gulf War, he and I were at an IFA convention together, and we would meet at 6:00 in the morning for breakfast. And he came down and he said, "Hey, I had a great idea in the shower. I want you in the next 6 weeks to create a program to help these the troops when they come home. They won't have jobs. Franchising needs to embrace them. So we need to give them franchises, discounts on franchises. The IFA needs to help them. The SBA needs to give them interest-free loans. I want you to bring all of that together in 6 weeks, and we're going to roll it out." And I didn't have to say, "Don, you're crazy," because he already knew that, and we all knew that. But that was the excitement of working with Don. And I knew it wasn't going to take 6 weeks. He knew it wouldn't be done in 6 weeks. Right. But 6 months later, we had what's called VetFran today. Yeah. Don Dwyer was the motivator for putting together a program that rewards veterans to this day. I've lost track of how many thousands of veterans get discounts on franchising because of that. Well, and a lot of people fought it. Franchisors fought it for one reason or another. SBA said, "There's no way we're going to do any of that." And they didn't. They never did give interest-free loans, but they helped. And we helped with education. Even IFA at the time under Bill Cherkasky said, if you get SBA involved and you get Veterans Affairs involved, then the IFA will get involved. And we did all of that. And franchisors supported it, and they do today. But people fought it at the same time. And many of the brands from We Buy Ugly Houses to brands that I worked with Dwyer, and I worked with under in DeLuca's case, who ended up buying We Buy Ugly Houses. He would come up with ideas that were a little startling. And you knew that franchisees they're not going to buy into that, Fred. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they will. If you explain it right, they will. And generally, it was right. And franchisees come to terms with these kinds of ideas, especially if they see, hey, I'm making more money now. Yeah. Life's a little easier now. And that's something that Unleashed Brands can provide as an accelerator.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, look, change is hard, John. And one of the things I've learned through this process is we can always get better on how we move people through change. Yeah. Franchisees want to know, what's in it for me, right? Yeah. And we need to always talk about the why. Here is why we want to do something, and here's what it is that we want to do to accomplish the why. So we can always get better at that. Change is hard. But I always tell people, winning for franchisees is to have happy, profitable franchisees. And profitable to me means the two things: that they are generating free cash flow on a monthly basis for the fruits of their labor. And also we are increasing the enterprise value of their business so that they can sell it for more than they bought it for, or sell it for more than they invested in it to start it. That's winning. And in between, winning is, and this is a marathon. So in between the start of the marathon and the end of the marathon, they may or may not like all the decisions that I have to make for the betterment of the system. They may not like that. Mm-hmm. I go, but everybody likes winning, and everybody likes a winner. And so I am okay with the ups and downs of, on one day, they may not like a decision I have to make or me, so long as at the end of the day, when they look back on their business and they say, you know what, I am so glad I did it, and I would do it again. And there were ups and downs and bumps along the way, but we won. And
Yeah.
and that is the philosophy that I take.
Great. So a big topic today since the pandemic, and particularly because of the generation that I teach, the Gen Zs, these are our future. And I can tell you, you can have faith in the future with this Gen Z population. This is a unique generation, and they love franchising once they find out about it. Most of them don't know anything about it. But they also hear a lot about passive income, and they want to use franchising for passive income. Pre-pandemic, I don't know if I knew of any opportunity in franchising or any franchisor that touted or invited passive income. I think there were kennels, dog pet kennels that you could build and keep your job. There are some others like Clothesbin, where you're collecting clothing and selling it off to foreign markets. You can keep your job, but not many. And yet I'm seeing more and more franchisors promote keep your job and own this franchise, passive income, blah, blah, blah. I'm not buying it myself, but I might be wrong. I'm an old guy, so maybe I need to be more open-minded. You're a young guy. You got a lot more going on. You're more entrepreneurial, broader thinking. Are you going to provide opportunities for passive income in franchising?
Well, I think for me, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the word passive, because I believe that you don't have to work in your business, but you should always be working on your business. And so, and quite frankly, like that's the reason why we have 61% of our franchisees own more than one location, and they can't be in two locations at once. So I think we're a testament to prove that you can own multiple businesses and not have to work in it. But I always tell people, if you own a business and you're not over the top of that business, using our systems like our dashboarding tools and all of the things that we provide, you're like a captain who is steering the ship, not looking ahead. So they got to be engaged. And so, absolutely, like we have franchisees that own 5 little gyms, 15 urban airs. I mean, and so because we've provided them with the systems, processes, and procedures to not only just run one brand, but multiple brands and multi-sites, not even in the same DMAs, they absolutely can be more on it, over the top than in it. And if that's how people define passive, then I'm a supporter of it. But stroking a check for your franchise fee and whatever the startup costs are, and then just looking the other way and like just hoping something happens, like hope is not a strategy. And so that's how we approach it.
Yeah. So I've had people, when I was running We Buy Ugly Houses, a gentleman came in with his son. The dad's a lawyer, a lot of money, a son just graduating from college, doesn't really know what he wants to do. Yeah. And dad said he needs to be a Homevestors franchisee. Okay. Why? Well, because real estate. This is the place to be. This was a case where dad was going to put up the money, hoping, not a strategy, hoping son was going to operate the business.
Right.
And when dad went out to the men's room and I said to the son, I was alone, do you want to be a Homevestors franchisee and buy ugly houses and refurbish them and put them up? Not really, but my dad thinks it's a good idea. Uh-huh. That killed the deal. That kind of passive income, no. The passive income also where the owner thinks, and you pretty much described it, I'm going to put up my money and I'm going to hire a manager who's going to do this for me. Are managers going to do the job? Some managers do, of course, but what percentage of the time do you want a manager in your franchise, rather than if you're, just getting started and you only own a unit or even 3 units, how much you're going to depend on the manager?
Well, I tell people, like, you can't properly lead that manager if you don't know the business yourself. And so I think one of the testaments to my success early on is that we built our first location. I worked every position. I worked as a janitor, the front desk. I hosted parties. I ran the attractions. So then I knew how to hold others accountable, how to teach. And so if the owner of the business does not know the business enough to have fruitful conversations and leadership conversations, accountability conversations with the staff, then it's the blind leading the blind. And so I do believe there's a point at which you can go from in it a lot every day to on it and over it, but that's going to take time, and it's going to, the amount of time is going to vary by franchise.
Two of my young graduates, before they even graduated, bought in the home repair industry. I don't want to say the name of the company, because there's nothing wrong with the company. So they invested partly for passive income, and they operated it for a couple of years, just recently sold it. They're also in a second brand. And they realized in the 2 years of running the business that what the business provided was not satisfying them. And I chuckle about that, because starting in 1979, when I interviewed 100 people about franchising to write my book, I knew that satisfaction was maybe as important as the money that you could make out of a franchise. And one of these young men just 2 weeks ago came to my class to announce that he was selling this first franchise, and said, when somebody said, why are you selling? Because you're making some money. And he said, we really don't care about that service. At the end of the week, we're not really satisfied doing what we're doing. They weren't doing the technical job. They were working on it. They hired the technicians, but the purpose of the job was not satisfying to them. Then another, a current franchisee as well, one of my students, he must be 22 or 23. He owns dryer vent superheroes. And he has no issue with saying, I suck lint out of dryers and I prevent fires, because fires in dryers is like number 3 cause. I don't know that that's accurate. So he is satisfied. He loves it. He's going to build 5 of them. He's started out with 1 truck, has 2 trucks. He wants multiple territories, and he wants multiple brands. He's satisfied doing something that these other students were not sucking lint out of dryers, but something similar.
Right.
And again, these students are entrepreneurial, and they want to work on it. They know the importance of working on it as to working in it. You won't make money if you stay working in it. They understand that. So today, very important for people to know, particularly the Gen Zs, if they don't feel there's redeeming value beyond the money in the business, they're not doing the business. And you have brands, Premier Martial Arts, Class 101, great satisfaction in that kind of a business. Little Gym, the XP League. These are things where it's sort of like teaching college today. Yeah. You don't go teach college because you're going to make money. You hope to make some. It's a commitment. You've got to be committed to doing this. But when I get letters, or I have a student drop in my office to say, I just want to thank you. I've gotten my second offer. I'm going to graduate in May, and I've gotten my second offer already from a franchisor who I would not know had I not taken your classes. That's better than the money, that level of satisfaction. Well, that's not true for baby boomers, but it is true for the Gen Zs, that they want that level of satisfaction. What do you say about that? Do you hear this from franchisees, particularly younger franchisees?
Absolutely. I think Simon Sinek says it best, and I think it applies to the consumer, but it also applies to us in our trades. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. You're not satisfied by what you do. You're satisfied by why you do it. And, the gentleman you talked about who, hey, I'm not just cleaning lint out of dryers. I'm stopping house fires.
Yeah.
I'm protecting families, those kids who are sound asleep at night. That is something you can rally around. And so, for us, we don't teach kids to break a board, and we don't necessarily give out colored belts, but, and we don't teach kids to walk on balance beams, or, we're just not matchmaking a student to a college. Look, we teach life lessons and skills. We create special memories. We help kids engage socially. We help them with cognitive development. We help them escape the world when there's lots of pain there. We also help them feel special, noticed, and loved. Like that's what our franchisees get up every day and do. And you said it earlier, and I couldn't agree more. Like, if you're tired, this is what we believe. If you're tired of what you see on TV and your politicians and just all the stuff in the world, like, stop trying to fix that. We believe that we are stewarding today's kids who are tomorrow's leaders. And if we instill the values and all the things I just outlined in them, they will change the world. And that will be how we do it, is through the next generation.
Yeah, exactly. Now, these, in my classes, I use the DISC profile. Very, very simple. Been around from the 1950s. Same guy who created the lie detector test created the DISC profile. And I said to my student, this young man who said, we just weren't satisfied with what we were doing. We didn't really care at the end of the day. And I pointed to his DISC profile. I give every student a DISC profile. Love and that. Said, you didn't pay attention because you are an S personality. It's part of your personality DNA. You can't change this. You can't ignore this. And you didn't pay attention to that, to know that you didn't ask yourself the question, am I really going to care at the end of a week that I did this job or had this job done through my franchise? And the answer is no. And had you paid attention to the level of satisfaction that you need in your life, you wouldn't have invested in that particular franchise. What about you? Does Unleashed Brands look at a profile? DISC isn't the only one. There are much more they're all built on DISC, and DISC can be nearly free for people. Most franchisors, maybe they're into some personality profiling, but just as many think, no, that could just get in the way of a sale.
No, we absolutely do. We're really big on Patrick Lencioni's Working Genius. And so that really helps us understand both our employees, our team members, and our franchisees and prospective franchisees. Do they, everybody has two working geniuses, two competencies, and two frustrations. And so by understanding your geniuses and your frustrations, you can really understand like what will bring you joy, what will keep you hot and motivated. And so we absolutely do that. And, I believe I've got the best in FranDev, our Chief Growth Officer, Josh Wall. So our franchisees, we believe it's a two-way street in franchise recruitment. It is just as much our responsibility to evaluate them and make sure they're a right fit as it is for the franchise candidate to evaluate us and make sure they're a right fit. It is a marriage. Hopefully most our franchise agreements are 10 years with some renewals. So that's a long time. I mean, that's, and so it is so important to understand that we profile and we continue to update our profile of our most successful franchisees. And then we use that profile to say, hey, how do these others who are coming in stack up against that profile? Not selfishly because we want the success, but again, it's a two-way street. We want them to be successful too.
Absolutely.
And so the profiling is so important to help people understand.
Franchisors who don't know that profile, they are doing a disservice. And unfortunately, that's probably at least half of the franchisors out there who do not take this into consideration. And if they want to attract Gen Zs, they're going to have to pay attention to it. It's a completely different world in that the Gen Z realm, which, I'm not a Gen Z, obviously. I'm a baby boomer, but I do understand a lot about the Gen Zs. Yes. I want to ask you another question. I love Class 101 from the day I discovered it. Class 101 held I think it was their first franchisee convention when they only had about 40 franchisees. Tom Pabin had only recently started franchising, and he came to an event at Titus Center in South Florida at Palm Beach Atlantic University. In the room we were meeting in, he realized this room is too big for me, but I could get my franchisees into this room. Could we have our first convention at the Titus Center? Wow. You get any more small brands like that? That room has a capacity of 200. Tom had maybe with staff, maybe 60 people in there. And for us, it was great because they didn't have Palm Beach Atlantic University on their list of universities to recruit for. And since that convention, we have 3 College 101 students, products, recruits who are at our university, 2 of them studying franchising, which is even, better for us. When during the pandemic, we had some downtime, and we filled it by saying, let's do a Zoom version of Shark Tank. Well, not really. We didn't have any money. We didn't have famous people. We had board members, my board members, some of whom are of course, well known. And we put them, Jeff Sieber being one of them, in finance, and Ray Titus, of course. John Clancy owns something like 50 Planet Fitness locations, and he's a multi-brand franchisee, lives here locally. So these are big time heavy hitters. And Titus is always looking to invest in somebody's franchise or acquire it. So we did it all by Zoom. So there was no interaction between we didn't call them sharks. We called them the dream team. So it had a lot of downside. This was not made for TV type stuff, but we put Tom Paban on there. He was our #1 show 3 years ago, and got great feedback from that panel of experts. And Tom has referred to that experience many times. Well, we completed our 3rd season, and we went live in a studio, and we raised some money to do it. And we're on YouTube. I mean, that's our channel. We'd like to move to a TV channel at some point, or a higher level, and we're looking into doing that. But we decided to do LinkedIn Live sessions that looked behind the franchise hot seat. And I had Tom geared up to be about maybe 4 weeks ago or so. Hey, Tom, what's happened in the 3 years? So there's been turnover at Class 101. I understand this happens all the time. How often, do you bring on a brand and you realize that, and I don't know any of the details about Tom left, but he's a franchisee. I don't know that other people left. Can you talk about what happens? Because there's always that fear that you're going to lose the love of, the unity of the franchisees when this happens. So to whatever extent you can, tell us about Class 101 today.
Yeah, no, Class 101 it's in a great place. And like I said earlier, I mean, we absolutely, Tom is the founder, will always be the founder of Class 101. We will always honor that. And we're excited for him and the impact he's going to continue to make in Lexington. I think it comes down to, it's always going to come down to what people's passions are. What do they really want to focus on? I think, Oliver Berkman says it best. It's like when you look back on the end of your life, all of the things that you've focused on will have been your life. And so I think it just comes down to what we need to focus on as an organization and what the founders want to focus on for the remainder of their careers, and just always ensuring there's an alignment and trying to find a way that to kind of make those things happen together. And so, that's just the path that we've been moving down. The Class 101 franchisees are extremely excited about the future. Class 101 is inside of our emerging brands incubator led by Carissa Fenley. We just came off of an amazing conference where they're saying things about the content and the curriculum that we're providing and the support. So Class 101 couldn't be in a better place. And that is also because of the foundation that Tom laid, and that we're going to continue to build on his legacy.
Great. So, Michael, you've been a winner over and over and over and over. The Entrepreneur of Excellence winner, the Entrepreneur of the Year winner. We don't like necessarily to talk about the times we were failures, but I'd like you to talk about this. I'm assuming you've had a failure or two here or there that you may not like to talk about, but sometimes we talk about them to say, it was worth failing,
Oh, yeah.
because we don't learn, especially being successful. We learn when we fail. So where has Michael O. Browning learned?
Oh, where to begin, right? Like if you're not failing, you're not trying, right? And that's a philosophy that we have. We also take the approach that we're not going to bet the farm on any one idea, so that when we're always trying new things, if we fail, we can course correct because the risk we took wasn't so large. So we like the aggregation of small gains. We're trying to just take little risks and improve. A friend of mine, mentor of mine, John Maxwell talks about the feedback loop, and so you try something and then you're going to get feedback, which is going to allow you to improve. And then you go try it again. And every time that loop comes back around and you get additional feedback, you can make improvements. And every time you go back in, you're better. And so I tell the team, like, the entire thesis around an A/B test is A either wins or B either wins. And so whoever doesn't win technically loses, technically fails. So, and in franchising, though, I think because I came in as someone with absolutely no franchise experience, I still don't have a CFE to this day. It's been about mentors in my life, as well as learning from my mistakes. And I think one of my mentors, Chris Tonko, who is the chief operating officer of 7-Eleven, he said, Michael, franchisees don't always want to be right, but they always want to be heard. And he said, like, you really get in tune with your franchisees, because in my early days, it was too much of me driving without listening. And so I could have done it differently, and I do it differently now. And so learning to listen more. Also, another mentor of mine talked to me about innovation in franchising isn't necessarily a bad thing. Entrepreneurship isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's got to be innovation within a framework, entrepreneurship within a framework. And that framework are the guardrails that keep the franchisor safe and the franchisee safe in the innovation and in the entrepreneurship. And, the chicken McNuggets were a result of innovation. I've had attractions that became great innovations. So being more flexible, I've learned to be more flexible than rigid within a framework, which has created higher franchisee satisfaction when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship. And so those are some lessons that I've learned along the way.
Great. And Michael, you graduated from the Neely School of Business at Texas Christian?
Yeah, I was actually a political science major. I had a business minor, from the Neely School.
So I have a political science major who wants to be United States Senator, but just for backup, he's earning the concentration in franchising with me, and swaying more and more to franchise ownership. So you're also on the board at the Neely School, I believe.
Yes, that is correct. So
okay.
I'm on the Department of Entrepreneurship and Innovation.
And how does the chairman there, the dean there, think about franchising? Because not all deans like franchising.
Well, I am blessed that our dean is excited. And I like you. I really look up to you and everything that you've done. I have a real passion for undergrads. And because, man, I just think about, if I would have learned just a little bit of franchising in college, if my journey was the way it was, I could have saved so much pain. And right,
I hear it all the time.
And so I just have this passion for undergrads. And so I went to them, and based on what you had done and Kathleen had done and others who have gone before me, and just said, man, we need to teach these students about franchising, because what I think people see today is, okay, I can be an inventor, I can be a business, I can be an entrepreneur, or I can be a business owner, or I can be an employee. Like, those are the only things I can do. Yeah. And I'm like, well, like, franchising encompasses a lot of that. And so, plus you have a lot of students who, want to be an entrepreneur or own a business coming out of college, and their parents, who are most likely going to fund that, are more likely and more comfortable saying, I'd love to put you in something that has a little bit of a framework than just give you a blank check and you have a blank piece of paper.
Yeah.
And so I taught a module this fall at TCU, and that has now turned into a full undergraduate course in the spring. And so I'm trying to grow that. I want to learn from you, John, on how to do it, and Kathleen. But it was so popular, and kids are excited, and like you said earlier before we started recording, is like, it's so fulfilling. Like it's they don't even give me a parking pass over there. It's just, but I love it. I love it.
Well, I've got to earn my parking pass at Palm Beach Atlantic, and I do by I have 101 at people like you on my advisory board and I would love to come over to your program and teach
Yes.
for a day, or contribute, or show my curriculum, or even better, maybe I could lease my curriculum over, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We're in franchising.
Yes.
And my program has been very successful. My graduates will get 2 to 3 offers before they graduate from a franchisor. Like, it could be Unleashed Brands. You'll call me and say, hey, we need this. You got a graduate, or do you have somebody who's coming out of their undergraduate? I also teach the MBAs franchising. So this is powerful to empower these young people. And it's certainly providing great intelligence to franchising across the board. And any way I can help, I do want to get you over to speak with our advisory group. I think Josh might have been I need to talk to him about every January we do the Selling Franchises Summit. And I have about 30 panelists, and I certainly could use Josh to be on one of those panels. So I'm going to follow up with him and you more about that. I have roots in Dallas. I'm there a lot. I know a lot of the businesses there. Dwyer just down the road. I do a lot with them. Love to come over to your program and share some expertise and see where we can grow together, as I do with Kathleen at the University of Louisville. We've done some interesting projects. She has much more money from Yum than we have at Palm Beach Atlantic University. We're a little tiny university, but we're getting it done in a big way.
You are, and we look up to you greatly, and we're hoping we can have similar impact as you and Kathleen here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I keep telling people that when I start the class, I say, look, you can come out of here, and I want you to understand, if you want to be a franchisee, if you want to work for a franchisor, or if franchising is not for you, that's a good thing too.
Yeah.
And they're loving it, and we would just be honored to have you.
Well, great. We'll work on that. And I'm going to let you go back to work. I know you're a busy guy as well, and continue building Unleashed Brands. Who knows? It might be 30 brands under your umbrella in no time, as you continue to help franchise companies, franchisees, create more opportunities for families. God bless you in this venture, and God bless franchising. We are changing the world.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast with Dr. John P. Hayes. Tune in next time for more conversation around all things franchising.